Hi there.
Oh, God!
Something you might have failed to notice while watching Widow's Bay is that episode 5, 6 and 7 were connected. Now I know that sounds funny since this is a TV show and every episode is just a continuation of the story, but episode 1 introduces our story and gives us this view of the historical society, which, as we've said before, was a clue to what was to come in the rest of the show. Episode 2 then introduces the Haunted Inn as we examine more of the occurrences that are said to have happened in Widow's Bay, and we get even more clues. In episode 3, the tourists arrive and Tom is then haunted by an evil hag. But it looks like that happens simultaneously with episode 4, where Patricia is seduced by an evil spell book and tries to sacrifice a bunch of people to the mysterious entity.
All available, fire and rescue to Patricia's cocktails. I don't know what the fuck is going on.
We know this because the bell, or the death knell, as we've come to know it as, is heard tolling at the end of episode 3. At the same time, Pastor Bryce leaves a message saying he heard it, and at the same time, Sheriff Bashir calls to report the scene at the beach.
Tom, it's Bryce. I heard it. I'm so sorry. God forgive me.
Rescue Station 1. This is Sam Clemens. All available, fire and rescue. Patricia's cocktails.
So episode 3 and 4 end at the same point in the timeline. The next chapter of the story then merges episode 5, 6 and 7 together as it begins with the mushrooms. This is the origin of everything. So at the beginning of episode 5, we see Richard Warren on the day he ate the mushrooms, and later on in the episode, Tom finds them in the pastor's office. He then takes them and begins to experience things that are not as random as you think. When he wakes up from his first blackout, Patricia says,
Just stop yelling at me.
this means that he doesn't exactly lose consciousness, but he still communicates when he spaces out, so he most likely has memory gaps rather than loss of consciousness. These memory gaps are often preceded by a voice that only Tom can hear.
I don't know what that means, but...
You hear that?
Something is communicating with him. Perhaps the most obvious example is this scene where he has a very striking reaction when Rosemary walks into the room. After the 4th time he blacks out or experiences these memory gaps, he wakes up and is now drawing the same figure of a palm that the other guy who took the mushrooms began to draw. The problem is that Tom cannot communicate whatever is going on during these memory gaps to the people around him. And when Wick began to consider digging up Richard Warren's grave, something then speaks to Tom again and he suddenly becomes alarmed about his son.
Where's my son?
Later on, after vomiting back at home, he then has this hallucination where he sees his pregnant wife on the day Evan was born. As we know, Rosemary, Evan and his mother are all people with Richard Warren's blood. Finally, he prays to God, except it's the evil entity that answers him. He then falls asleep for a whole day, and within that day the show takes a break from the current timeline to show us the origin of the settlers on this island and all the evils that haunt them. It is highly likely that in the 2nd season these memory gaps would be explored and we will find out what exactly Tom saw. If you recall, the other people who took the mushrooms were never the same after. Reverend Bryce went on to figure things out that made him kill himself. And as for the other guy,
Anyway, Brian saw something on his trip that changed him completely.
in episode 7, Richard Warren confirms that everything began with eating some mushrooms, and basically details how he signed a pact with this evil entity to keep on sacrificing lives. This ties up the story of this 3-part chapter, and everything began and ended with Richard Warren. And well, continues with his bloodline again, because at the end of the episode we learn that one of his children survived. Thanks for watching this video. Let me know what you think. Please leave a like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.